This week at Sangha time on Thursday evening, we had a spirited conversation about Dharma and Karma, mainly karma. And I ended up saying that you can explain karma in one simple, short mantra, which is shut up and be nice. So we laughed a lot about that, came up with this idea that there should be a perennial t-shirt that says shut up and be nice. And somebody also suggested that I make that this coming week's Sankalpa, our resolve, which we commit to on a weekly basis. And I said to somebody, if you dare me, I'll do it. And of course, being the way we are, somebody dared me. So now I've got to work out how I'm going to insult everybody in this week's resolve or Sankalpa and have that make meaning or be useful or fruitful to all of us. So what I mean by shut up and be nice is in those two things, shutting up and being nice, we see these really important yogic universal practices or laws is a better way to say it, called Dharma and Karma. And it is said that if you understand Dharma and Karma, you understand all of Hinduism, which is the religious framework out of which yoga comes. But you can also see Dharma and Karma showing up in other wisdom traditions as well, especially Buddhism, but other ones as well. There is an old story about a sage sitting at a riverbank, and a scorpion comes by and falls into the river. So the sage reaches in, cups up the scorpion, and the scorpion stings him, but the sage sets the scorpion on the riverbank. A couple minutes later, the same scorpion falls into the riverbank again, and once again, the sage reaches into the river, scoops up the scorpion, who stings him again, and then he sets it on the riverbank. And a passerby is noticing all of this and asks the sage, why are you doing this? I mean, obviously, this scorpion is going to continue to sting you, and yet you rescue it each and every single time. And the sage responds by saying, it's the dharma of the scorpion to sting, but it's the dharma of the human being to save. So dharma means the way of things. It means like the overarching universal law that says that the way of the universe is peace, is harmony, is integrity, is justice. And what this story of the sage tells us is that it's our individual dharma to serve that universal dharma. There is a phrase or you could almost call it a commandment in yoga that is called ahimsa paramo dharma. And it means or translates into the paramount dharma, or is ahimsa, which many of you might know means nonviolence. So it says to each of us individually and collectively that we are to conduct ourselves in ways that are nonviolent, that help maintain peace and harmony, and we are to act in ways that uphold universal love for all living creatures. So it's a pretty high commandment. And yet that is what this understanding of these universal law of Dharma asks us to commit to as yogis. And when we don't live within that law of Dharma, what happens is that chaos or disharmony or violence or harming of some sort, big or small, will ensue. The other big universal law that I mentioned was karma. And this is one that probably people hear of more often, but is probably more misunderstood. And what karma says is that there is an interconnection to everything. And that every action, including the thoughts that we have in our head, you have to think of those as actions, the act of thinking a thought, Everything from the thoughts we have to the words we speak to the actions we take ripple out and create consequences. So you can think of karma like a chain. Each action, whether it's a thought, a word, or a deed, is linked to another consequence or a thought or a word or a deed, which is linked to another one, which is linked to another one. So you can see how all of this is interconnected. And what our charge, if you will, to do is to notice that chain of how our thoughts lead to our words, which lead to our actions, and then that ripples out and affects everything that happens around us. And the good news, bad news is that once you understand that that is the law of karma, this rippling out and interconnectedness of all actions, we can interrupt it or we can change it. You could say that we have full power to influence our own destiny. And how we influence our own destiny is by going all the way back to the root of our thoughts. And that, my friends, is really, really hard work. Okay? And that's where the practice of yoga comes in. Yoga is a discipline that teaches us, if you will, how to cultivate right thought, which leads to right speech, which leads to right action, which culminates or comes back to us in the form of things being harmonious, things being in accordance with the dharmic way of things, meaning peaceful and just and in harmony. So this idea of dharma asks us to, and karma, asks us to do two things. First, to shut up, to get quiet, to go inside and to do this really, really hard work of noticing our thoughts. And when we notice a thought that is harmful to ourselves or to others, we practice interrupting it. And we will have to practice that for a long, long time, because for a long, long time, we've been thinking harmful thoughts. Not so many of us have been thinking big, huge, harmful thoughts, because we'd be in jail if we had. But it's more the small, little harmful thoughts, beginning with things like saying to yourself when you do something silly, "I'm so stupid." So as we start to shut up and go inside and pay attention and start to interrupt through awareness and acknowledgement that we are, in fact, cultivating harmful thoughts or selfish thoughts, thoughts that lead to us only thinking about what is best for us and not taking the whole dharmic picture into play. As we start to work on that part of ourselves, we stop this part of the chain that is putting more karma out into the world that will come back to create disharmony in our own lives, but also the lives of all others. When we go inside, we also meet another part of ourselves, not just this part that is ruminating on harmful thoughts, but we also meet the part of us that is known as the mind of God. Cynthia Bourgeot, who is a beautiful wisdom teacher, says it a little different, which I love. She says we also, when we go inside and get quiet, we meet the heart of God. And that essence is within all of us as well, because that is one of the universal perennial truths, that all of us contain this spark of the divine. So when we get quiet, when we go inside, we meet our heart of God inside of us. And then this idea of being nice or being good flows out of us naturally, because this spark of the divine, this essence of us, is naturally good. It is naturally aligned with Dharma. So I hope in that explanation you see how Dharma and Karma play a really important, integral role with one another. And when we uphold what Dharma is and go mindfully through our day, practicing remembering to be in harmony with the way of things, and to tap into what is already in us, this natural goodness, this heart of God or heart of the divine, we will begin to act in accordance with the laws of karma and dharma. And as more and more and more of us do that, we ripple out, and we, in fact, is this word I just want to use because of the pandemic, we become contagious. Our way of being influences that, the whole way of being. I offer that to you and just say right before we practice in this very love-centered way towards you and towards myself and towards all beings, let's shut up and be nice.